Hello and welcome to everybody watching on YouTube. My name is Surjo, and in this video I will be demoing the BOSS Katana 100, which is a 100-watt new solid-state amplifier by BOSS, and it's pretty much the most tube-sounding solid-state amp out there. And for the value that you're going to get out of this amp, it's pretty unbelievable. I'm going to be playing some of my favorite tones. Those are of course my preferences, but I will be going through all that the amp has to offer, and let's just dive right into it. This is the review for the BOSS Katana 100. As you can hear, it has a pretty good sound, but we'll just start getting into the functions. The first thing, we're going to start from the left. As you can see, it has a variety of amp types, and I've got some effects running through it, so I'll just switch those off so you can hear what the amp sounds like on its own. So this is just what they are terming as the clean amp. As you can hear, like very clean Fenderish sound that they've got going on. The controls are pretty set. They've got a graphic EQ for bass, mid and treble, and they've got a presence as well, so for that little extra adjustment on the high end if you need it, which is of course all high-end amplifiers have that, and this is very much that. So we'll keep the bass, mid and the treble presence all the same throughout all the adjustments that I'm going to make in terms of amp sounds and other effects that the amp has to offer. Keep in mind that the chain, there is no chain as such. The guitar is plugged directly into the amplifier. There's no pedals in between. It's all amplifier, and it's just mic'd. It's a mic'd, and it's not mic'd at the center, it's mic'd at the side. I prefer it that way. So you can imagine that there'll be a little bit more bite if it were mic'd in the center. That being said, on the back panel of the amp there is a line out, and it's a staggeringly accurate line out. It's almost as good as connecting a condenser right at the front. It's staggeringly good, and you can definitely use that if you wanted to record and so on and so forth, no problem whatsoever. So this is what the clean amp sounds like. The next they've got is like a crunch. You can hear that, you can hear the distortion kick in as such. You can hear the extra bite, and the thing which I hope is coming across is the headroom, the lack of compression, and how free the sound goes out. The pick, you know, every nuance of the picking, there's a bite which is you can easily hear, which comes through, and you don't get that at this level out of most solid state amps. That's what for me is the selling point of this amp. The fact that it's so close to sounding like a tube amp is where the real money is. I mean, if that doesn't sound like old school blues, I don't know what does. Moving on to the next, they have a lead. As you can hear, more distortion, more gain coming through. This is for all the 70s hard rock bands. I mean, if you guys want to try out being a 70s hard rock band, I guess this is what it's going to be like. Keeping in mind that all of this is just the amp, no effects are turned on, and that's the sound that you're getting. That's a pretty pure sound right there. You can do a lot of wonders with that sound, and so many bands have done in the past, and BOSS has been able to faithfully recreate these sounds in the Katana 100. And like I said, value for money. You're getting so many different amps which sound so close to the original amps that they're modeled on for the price that you're going to get it at, they really it's not a match. I think you get 2x12s also as far as the Katana is concerned. This is the 1x12 though. So yeah, you got big 1x12, powerful headroom, clarity, mid-range, cutting through, precision. It's all there. It's all there. The final amp type that they have going on is what they term as brown, and this obviously, I mean, it's especially for the Van Halen fans out there, for those who like that brown sound. And if you're going to be playing, you know, any of the Van Halen catalog, this is the kind of drive that Van Halen preferred. He, of course, would double up on his Marshalls and make the Marshall jump switch, as you know, is part of the legend. But so those are the basic amp types they have. One which I'm not being able to demo right now simply because I do not have an acoustic guitar with me. They have an acoustic amp type as well, with which you can plug in your acoustic guitars into, and very faithful recreation. It will not sound like an acoustic guitar played through an electric amp. It doesn't sound like that. It genuinely sounds like something that you can use. It sounds like a dedicated acoustic amplifier. So just another thing, just adding to that value for money. Boss have really outdone themselves this time. For me, I mean, I've never really played anything which encompasses so many things in one amplifier. I've never really done that. So to me, it's like a win-win, you know. Plus, I have an acoustic album, so it works out good for me also. So going through all the amp types, the next thing to look at, and I like this a lot, they've got effects. A lot of amps have effects. But then you have to look at the manual and you have to figure out some way of switching it on, press this button and then the other button and then the third button, and then, you know, then you call your grandmother and find out the pin code of the area so that you can... No. This is how you turn on an effect. You turn the knob on, the effect is turned on. As simple as that. And the more you rotate, the more the parameters of whatever you've chosen work. So right now, they've got three parameters, three effects running, basically three knobs I should say. And what I've got going on, and you can see that a small green light comes on. That is their booster pedal, as in they've got boost, like you can put like a pedal or stomp box before. So they've got three of those, and I'll just play through the sounds. I'll go back to the clean setting of the clean amplifier setting because I'm partial to the blues. So that's what it sounds like without. You can hear that difference clear as day. It's like putting a stomp box in front of your amplifier. No suckage of tone, no extra compression, no inbuilt anything, nothing which hampers the tone. All clean, all clear, all cutting through, just fantastic. Turning the knob is obviously the gain or the drive parameter of the booster. So you can hear that. Now, keeping in mind that you are seeing that I'm not turning it all the way clockwise, that's because once it crosses 12 o'clock, it becomes a mod function. What I mean by that is if I cross 12 o'clock, you see, hear that, and that's a chorus. Now I've obviously exaggerated to the fullest so that you can hear it. No more boost, now it's a chorus. You can hear the speed of the chorus. Back to the boost. Now, they have programmed specific pedals for these parameters and effects that they've got going on over here, and I'll just run through them, and then we'll go to other cool things that they've put in specifically with relation to the effects section of the amplifier. So you can see that this is a green light, and the green light is for the blues drive pedal, the BOSS blues drive. I mean, everyone knows that, the blue iconic blues drive pedal. And if you press the button, it becomes red. You can see it becomes red. Now that is for the overdrive pedal, the BOSS OD pedal. So you can immediately hear more bite, more tone coming, because it's different to what the blues drive is. So it has more bite. Press that booster switch once more and it turns orange, and this is distortion, which is modeled after the BOSS DS1. So you can hear, obviously, this is the sound of a distortion pedal running through the front of an amp rather than an overdrive pedal. Go back to your early Joe Satriani albums and see if this tone is not exactly what you're looking for. Add some delay onto that and you're golden, pretty much. Because he used to use a DS1 in all the early albums. And this is exactly what it would sound like. A distortion pedal put on a cleanish amplifier sound. And you get what he was going for with the early albums. Now, same thing goes for when you turn to the mod section. So if you go past... I go past 12 o'clock, I'm in the green again, which is the chorus. Alright? Press the booster switch and it becomes red, and that is the flanger. So that's a pretty strong flange by the end of it. Press the booster switch again, it becomes orange. This makes it a phaser. And again, just turning the knob increases or decreases the mix. Clean, no compression, again, no suckage of tone, which are the most important things. Those are the problems that are faced when you play through modeling amplifiers. That, yeah, they've put a bunch of effects in there, but the execution of the effects is not up to scratch. So the fact that these sound great, they play great, you know, they are so responsive to the control, and it's such a simple control. You don't have to think, just turn it on, press buttons, and it's pretty much done. Now the interesting thing is, in case you're asking like, okay, I don't want a flanger, I don't want a chorus, I don't want a phaser, I want some other modulation effect. What do I do in case I want that? Yeah, BOSS has got you covered. Or if I want different distortions, what if I wanted a tube screamer, or if I wanted a classic DST, what do I do then? Your BOSS has got you covered, because you can connect this to their Tone Central app and on their website, and you can pretty much replace these stomp boxes with any of your choice. They've got over 50 stomp boxes there, so you can select that tone whichever way you want, and still you don't have to put on a stomp box in front of the amp. You can just select and run it through. If you want to switch through those, they've got foot switch options at the back, so you know you can connect a foot switch and you can get this whole rig running without having a single actual stomp box in front of you, except maybe a rig controller. This thing is unbelievably responsive, adaptive, and it does so many things all at once, all in one package. It's quite unbelievable. So I'm putting the booster back on the blues drive and keeping it there because, again, I'm partial to it. The second effects knob, you can see is broadly written delay on it because that's what it does. Keep starting with the green again, and the fundamentals remain the same. You turn the knob to switch on the effect. The further you turn the knob clockwise, the greater the mix of the effect. That's the green is supposed to be a digital delay. And you can hear the number of feedbacks on it. And you can hear the delay fading away. Again, this runs up till 12 o'clock because after 12 they have still different sorts of effects, more effects like tremolos and stuff. So you can hear this is what the full delay sounds like. Long feedback, long tail. Now another thing to pay attention to here, because these guys have not left anything up to chance. Everything is provided for. There's a button here which is the tap tempo button. So you can alter the time of the delay depending upon the tempo of your song. So if I make that really quick, obviously I've kept the delay extremely exaggerated for effect, so you can hear what it can do. Three types of delays. The first is the green, is the digital delay. When you turn it to red, it gets into the analog delay. This of course is modeling the old analog delays. And the difference between the analog delay and the digital delay obviously is the fact that there's a bit of modulation always in the analog delays, whereas the digital delay is completely clean. The original signal is just repeated depending on the number of feedback and the amount of time you select. But the old analog delays, the technology wasn't strong enough to have like a clean bypass signal repeat itself. There would always be some amount of modulation added, and that's what you can hear in this also. The signal, the delayed signal, is slightly different to the original. There's a bit of modulation added there. So you can hear that there's a bit of high end rolled off, and those are the things that used to happen previously when the circuitry wasn't as pristine as the circuitry is today. Switch the effects button one more time, and then you get into the tape echo. And this of course is the original, the first kind of delay that they had invented was the tape delay. Still, for my preference, what I would always prefer is the tape delay sound. Just the warmth of the sound is something which it really captures the imagination. All these effects are obviously, they're tools. They're tools to help you play and maybe spark your imagination into creating something original and different. And you know, when you come up with the sound that you want, that you like, that's really precious. So again, knob turns counterclockwise, the mix is greater. Knob turns counterclockwise, the mix is smaller. I hit the camera stays hit. Now we move into the post 12 o'clock section of this delay, which is the effects. And again, you can see the green light is turned on, and that is the tremolo function. So once you get that, then you can play Green Day. Please find more uses than Green Day also. So you have basic tremolo. Now I'm not sure which tremolo it is, whether it's a bias or an opto tremolo, but I'm sure that they have the specifications on their website. And like I said, you can replace these with any number of Storm boxes once you connect it to Boss Tone Central. Pressing it once more, we get into the red, and that's the auto wah up. Now the thing about any auto wah is, especially on a guitar, I guess only on a guitar, the harder you hit, the more harsh the sweep is. So if you go at it soft, you're not really going to get the sweep happening. But that sweep across the EQ, which is essentially what a wah is a filter across the EQ, happens when you pick harder. So this sounds like the wah pedal is just, it's kept up. There's no... I push that up, and this is one of my favorite effects, just because it sounds so funky, is the octaver. So now you can obviously decrease or increase the mix as you want. Even with the regular octaver pedals, you'll find it very hard if you wanted to play chords on an octaver pedal. It's just that because it's not designed in a way where it is able to recognize clusters of notes at the same time. So you might face some problems there, but that's just the way the actual pedal is. So you see that the pedal has a hard time figuring out which one to go for. And that's there even in the original pedal. So this is not, I think they've actually recreated what the pedal does. Kudos to them for that. They could have, gone for because polyphonic is something that happens now. But back in the day when the first octaver pedals were developed, there was no polyphony happening. So this is what that is. Now I've put it back to the delay function simply because I like it. The final is the reverbs. Start with the green. This is only reverb, so I can go all the way from, all the way past 12 also. It'll still be increasing the mix. When you have the green on, that's the plate reverb. So let's sample that. That's somewhere, the mix is like halfway here. That's still a lot of reverb. A plate reverb, if you don't know, they would have these massive plates, like 500-pound plates, metal plates, of which the sound would bounce off of, and that's the sound that they're actually recreating. That's a plate reverb. So it's not going to have a long tail, and it's not going to have a well-defined tail anyway. It's always going to be it's a reverb meant for short reverbs. Anyway, if I turn the thing up to full, as you can see, it's not a long tail, it's a short tail. We start playing some surf music out of that, Something like that, I guess. Something like that. Those are the kind of reverbs they had back in the day. When you switch it to the red, it becomes a spring reverb. Spring reverb obviously is an in-amp reverb the old Fender amps used to literally have springs to provide their reverb. Going halfway. Again, it's going to be a short tail reverb simply because it's in an amp. How much reverb do you expect? This is with the mix turned up to full. You can hear that almost plasticky nature that vibrated. That's the spring. That's actually the reverb happening through the springs. And that's something that can happen in a spring reverb too. The recreation is just top notch. When you switch it to orange, it becomes the hall reverb. Now this, I'm hoping, is a long tail reverb simply because it says hall. As you can hear, a well-defined long tail. You see the length to which the tail goes, and it has definition all through as well. So to try and get like what you could play. To explain the true power of the reverb and how long it stays and what it adds to the tone, Now, obviously, these are exaggerated effects so that you get the full scope of what it can do. Obviously, you're going to be somewhere in between, or if if your recording needs it, or if you want that sort of really spacey sound, you go for the entire thing. Now this is one of the sounds I really like simply because being a fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan and John Mayer, who also is a fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan, that sort of clean, almost where it becomes bluesy, but it's got a little bit of bite to it. That's the kind of sound that I've always gravitated towards myself. And the great thing about the amp, and this is what really sold me on the amp, was that comes straight out of the box. You turn it on and it's there. It's happening. That tone is happening. So nothing like it. So as you can see, it has a wide variety of sounds that it can encompass. A lot of sounds that you can get straight out of the box. It can go all the way from surf music to hard rock, all the way from jazz to even classical, because again, it has an acoustic guitar amplifier in there. So you can get all of these things, all out of this amazing tone for electric guitar aficionados, near tube tone warmth as well. So it's a no-lose situation, and something which is very, very essential for people who want to play their loud amp at home as well as gig with the loud amp. It has a power attenuator. Yes, it has a preamp section where there's a gain and there's a volume. So now they suggest to keep the preamp volume as high as possible, just like you would in a tube amp, to get as much out of the circuit as possible. I'm completely okay with that. But that would mean that the amp becomes really loud. True. Except they have a master volume as well. So you have the power section of the amp which can be controlled by the master volume. But still the amp would be pretty loud. Yes, except they have an attenuator switch. This switch, there's a standby function which in a solid state amp, God bless BOSS, and 3 other options. You can run this amp at 100 watts of power, at 50 watts of power, and at 0.5 watts of power. That's incredible, because currently for this video I'm running it at 0.5 watts. It's not going through 50, not going through 100. All that headroom that you're hearing, all that clarity is going through 0.5 watts. You can get that tone out of 0.5 watts. Imagine cutting it loose, letting it going on 50 or 100 when you're going to your pub or your gig and you decide to open the amp up. It's going to be phenomenal. I really have fallen in love with the amp. I think BOSS has outdone themselves. I don't think there's a modeling amp like this in terms of its tone, functionality, adaptability, and all-encompassing range out there. And I'm going to get one very shortly, and I hope you do too. I hope you find this review helpful, and I hope you get the BOSS Katana 100. They have a 50-watt variety as well, a BOSS Katana 50 as well, for those who want to maybe pack it in a little bit smaller. All the same functionality, all the same everything. Again, you can mix and match the pedals as you want by connecting them to BOSS Tone Central. So keeping all these things in mind, I hope you find this review helpful, and leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And till next time, take care.